So, I mean, obviously, then your family had a great deal of influence on you. But who are some of the other people that you uh, feel that were kind of instrumental in the shaping of who you are as a trumpet player?
Oh, Louis Armstrong for sure. Um, my mom was really cool, man, and I would come home from school and there would be like a new record on the table, and mostly it was like Louis Armstrong, and then Al Hurt, and then one day it was like the Berlin Philharmonic playing Beethoven's Fifth, which all of a sudden split my whole musical world into
Right.
two different directions. Yeah, and not only Max Wood and the local players, but then yeah, these records that I started listening to and playing along with, and I started playing along with Louis Armstrong's one of his records right around the time I was in sixth grade, and really starting to understand that I was wanted to be a trumpet player. And so I started swinging the school march, and in grade school and in the Memorial Day parade, my dad was leading the band, and we came around the corner, and I started ba ba da ba da ba bee ba ba bee da ba da da dee, and all the high school kids were like, "What?" Dad was trying to go, "No, no," but inside he was like, "What?" Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Louis Armstrong for sure, and then Al Hurt, and then the popular music too at the time. Herb Alpert was happening, and it did take me a while to get the Dixieland thing when I started later on, 10 years later, trying to play more modern style, more like Woody and Freddie and everything, to get that Dixieland lilt out of my playing. I still can call it back, but it was like a conscious effort for me to try and smooth things out a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I used to listen to those records constantly, and then yeah, and then Herb Alpert, of course. I mean, it was more the music, not necessarily the trumpet playing. And then Chuck Mangione. But before Chuck, it was my buddy's father was a big Maynard Ferguson fan, and we had an assignment in I think third grade again, where we had to, like, it was an English assignment where we had to bring in a record from school and then write down everything that was on the back of the record. And I brought in some Sousa thing or what,
Yeah.
tunes or whatever. And my friend Randy brought in Maynard Ferguson record, like MF3 or something like that. And I was just like, whoa, what is that? Who is that crazy looking dude? And so we went back to my house after school and put it on, and that was it. That was the moment. I mean, I'd already had Lewis and El Hurt and all that, but the when I put that on, that was the life changing moment for me. And then that was it. And then that was Maynard was still touring a lot, and he would come through Detroit to play at Clarenceville High School. Midge Ellis would bring him in, and Buddy's band and Woody's band, and so my friend's dad would take us to see Maynard. And I remember the first concert and sitting in the front row waiting to get anointed with the spit coming out,
Yeah.
or like ah, and with Ron Tooley and all those cats, and then
Yeah.
of course then my whole world opened up to everything, and I went through heavy Freddie phase after that, and just checking out like everything, then getting into like checking out Bud Herseth and Maurice, and getting more heavily into that, because after high school, I went to Juilliard, and my goal was to be the next Bud, or Vacchiano. That's what I was going to do, But things changed when I got to New York, and you know, but
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So I'm probably forgetting, and then later on, I mean, if you want the whole thing, I mean, then when I was in Miami, I started, getting into more ECM type music, and somebody hipped me to Kenny Wheeler, which
Yeah.
also was a nice with it, which was also another kind of life shifting moment for me, trumpet playing wise, because I'd kind of already naturally started playing that way a little bit more anyway, a little bit freer, and because I think my classical background and you know, all the etudes and the other music that was in my mind. I wasn't really like just a stone cold bebop trumpet player. Never was, never will be. And when I heard Kenny's record New High, I was just like, whoa. And so I went up to Banff that summer, 1985, 86, 87, and 88, and I spent, you know, a whole month with Kenny every summer, hanging out with him and learning. And you know, I was just his assistant. The first year I was a participant, and then I went up every summer after that, and we became friends and stayed in touch for many years. And he influenced my writing a lot. He studied with Nadia Boulanger, counterpoint and everything. So he was an amazing composer and arranger, and his improvisations were, you know, something that, you know, I thought were very unique and very, very personal. And that was another big change for me, you know. And then after that, I mean, it's everybody that I've been working with, you know, like uh, Greg Gisbert and Brian Kaiser and Scott Wendholt and Kenny Rempton and Winton and you know, the guys that I hang with and have played with are my influences today.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, that's like, well, it's really interesting because what year were you born in?
19.
Did-
I was born in 1963, June.
okay, so you're just you're 2 years younger than me. So, but it was real interesting because as you're talking about some of those progressions about the music that kind of spoke to you at those times, I was with you 100%. You know, because I remember, you know, back in that period where Herb Alpert, he was the man. You know, he was on all the television shows, and you know, he was, you know, kind of cool and hip and stuff like that. You know, so it's like that was one of the people who kind of started to make me look at the trumpet slightly differently. Yeah, obviously, you know, Doc was big because he was on Tonight Show, and you know, Herb Alpert, I mean, Al Hurt, you know, all those people, Louis, you know, Pops. You know, you can't talk about trumpet, especially in the jazz world, without talking about Pops. But yeah, that eye-opening moment was the first time I heard a Maynard Ferguson album, and it's like, whoa, this is not the same instrument, and you know, kind of creates these shifts, and then it takes you down a rabbit hole, and you know, Freddie and Woody kind of became like my you know, my go-to. And it's really interesting to talk to someone who's, you know, we're relatively close in age. Geographically, we're relatively close.
Yeah.
You know, East Coast kind of guys, Midwest, whatever you want to call it. I was in Ohio at the time. But to see those influences, but what's even more interesting to me is that these are they're cross cultural influences. So, you know, you've got a half black, half Mexican kid growing up in Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. And then you've got, you know, this white guy living in Michigan. And, you know, you can still find that point of connection where you can say, hey, man, you know, yeah, this is something that we can agree on. And I just kind of wish that we could all find those points of agreement a little bit more, especially in the current climate.
Yeah, you know, they don't call it the universal language for nothing, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot too lately. And you know, when I was up at Interlochen back then, it was never an issue because we had people from, you know, 40 different countries all playing music together, and a big sign over the stage saying dedicated to world friendship through the universal language of the arts and all that. And then I read somewhere too, you know, it was, I think, a Bernstein quote. Bernstein, he said something to the fact that if all the world leaders could get together and play music together, maybe we would have a chance for world peace. But you never know.
Yeah.
With some groups, it creates more chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.